Hello, hello. Hey, everybody. Hey, welcome and thank you so much for all coming here to share this night with us. For those of you new to HOW, I'm just going to read a sentence from their mission statement. HOW Arts Incorporated is a nonprofit organization dedicated to preserving the past and celebrating the contemporary culture of the East Village and Lower East Side. Now, you probably know that for about 150 years, this neighborhood has been a haven for artists, progressives, feminists, LGBTQ plus persons, misfits, and lowlifes of all kinds. I acknowledge that we're on the unceded lands of the Lenape people, and also that gentrification means that not every weirdo that makes their way to New York City can afford to live here anymore. But I'm confident that the ethos lives on and extends in all directions outwards. HOW has 2 locations with loads of free cultural events and exhibitions, and houses a library and archive well worth checking out. This coming Saturday, the other location hosts the Bushwick Book Club. Tonight is made possible because of the tireless and dedicated staff here, Aldo Hernandez and Doug Bressler. Also thanks to Ethan manning the camera and newer staffer Alex Haviker. I'm forever grateful to the visionary founder and executive director Jane Friedman. And thanks to the truly impressive writers who've agreed to read here tonight. So for starters, I'm just going to read a few little excerpts from my novel, Pollyanna Goes to Hell. The narrator is a small-town scholarship student who maintains a sunny attitude on the mean streets of New York in the 1970s. This first bit is set in early winter 1975. Cold, raw, gray, bleak. I think the name of this place is Herald Square. That sounds grand, but I'm not sure. Every place in this town has a famous place name, but it mostly looks pretty bleak. Bleak and poor. Nobody's on the block right now but me, and there's a phone booth, and the phone rings. A payphone, ringing. Why not? I answer. Hello? Hello, is Ruth there? No. It's Jan, who's this? This is a payphone. There's nobody here. Who are you calling? You're not Ruth? No. Well, who are you? I'm just somebody who was walking along and answered this payphone. Do you know Richard Alpert? Yeah. You know Ram Dass? Well, sure, but, well, could you ask him to help me? Because I'm in Mexico and the authorities are holding me and I don't know what to do. I was down here and my husband went away to join the guerrillas and I got a job as a translator, but then the ambassador was assassinated and you know what happened to Trotsky. And so my friends were Maoists and they were against the people I was staying with who were Trotskyites, so I went south to an isolated village, but then my daughter got sick and I came back to Oaxaca to see a doctor, and I was living with Alejandro, but he beat me. He broke my ribs and split my lip, and he was going to kill me. And oh God, I had to run screaming naked through the streets carrying my child. And the coffee exporter picked me up in his car, and I was staying with him, but now the police chief says I need to give him some money. And I thought maybe Richard would give me some, so could you ask him? I don't actually know him personally. I just meant I know who he is. Oh. So could you give me the money? No, I'm just a financial aid student. I don't really have any money. And it's cold out here, and people are looking at me. Maybe this is a drug dealer's phone. I have to go now. Okay, it was great talking with you. And when you see Richard, tell him I said hello. Okay, now since we're on the Bowery, I'm going to read 2 nasty little bits set right on this street. They're set 2 years later than the last one, in 1977. So where are my people tonight? Don't see them. Nobody told me anything. No visiting LA punks, no urchins, no anybody like that. Me just standing here in the neon beer sign aisle, my favorite place to be, grabbing a quick beer after a long day. Wait, isn't that naughty schoolgirl? I try to say hi, but she runs right down the aisle in front of the bar, past the chairs in front of the stage, down the aisle to stage right of the stage, and out the back door. What the fuck was that about? I return my attention to my beer. I hear a crash of glass somewhere behind me. I'm tired, and bartenders drop glasses, patrons knock over beers, glass seems to seek ways to return to its sandy origins all the time anyway, so why should I even turn? Uh-oh. Here comes the bouncer kind of guy I call Hard Hat, quickly down the aisle. He seems to be looking at me. What did I do? He grabs my arm and jerks me across the aisle before I can open my mouth to whine. I see Crazy Mary standing where I just stood with what's left of a beer mug in her upraised hand. A beer mug with the front half smashed off to create a handle with two sharp blades. Two sharp blades which she appears to have been planning to bring down upon the back of my head. She keeps her arm raised, looks at my face. Put it down, Mary. Hard Hat doesn't even yell or curse. He says it quietly, but with a certainty he will be obeyed. Crazy Mary has blurry pinned eyes, can barely stand on her stiletto heels, holds the mug aloft, wavering like a skyscraper in a high wind, like a scary second while this new information works its way through. Hard Hat. She does not want to be on his wrong side. Decides I'm not worth the trouble. Why was I ever, is what of course I'm thinking. She drops the mug, ashes to ashes, sand to sand. Mary sways away. Hard Hat instructs, take care of yourself, kid. Don't get involved with characters like that. I had no intention of getting involved with her. I didn't think she would even remember me from the time I tied her boyfriend's shoelaces together. She's so out of it, and I'm nobody really. My jaw is slow as I try to thank Hard Hat. Wow. You saved my life. Thank you so much. What can I do for him? I can't buy him a drink. I think he half owns the place or something. He smiles and walks away. Jack on the rocks for me now. Need to cool down after that. Then I'll go home. Via the Hells Angels block in the 9th Precinct. As always, but especially now. Hope Crazy Mary leaves so I don't have to go past her. Would love to shoot the bourbon right down from my nerves, but I sip on account of I love the taste. Here comes the naughty schoolgirl, as if she just came from the bathroom. Usually she's only here if she's with her teenage friends or one of her fave bands. She has her big body smile on her face. Naughty schoolgirl is a few years younger than me, still in high school, but about my same height and brunette like me. Tonight we're both wearing black straight-leg jeans, black t-shirts, and black and white Converse. Hi, I just gave the Manus bass player a blowjob in the parking lot of the Amato Opera. Uh-oh. You better be careful Crazy Mary didn't see you. She did, but I took off running. I saw her go out the front, so I came back in through the back. Oh, I get it. Mary thought it was me with her boyfriend in the parking lot. I walk up Bowery on my way home. Poor old Mary is sitting on the sidewalk, slumped against the flyer-pasted wall of an abandoned building. On the nod, one stiletto shoe hangs half twisted off her stocking rumpled foot. Now I'm going to do another little bit that's about 2 weeks after the last one. I love it when there's sun and I can walk on down to no man's land, where the street sellers Honda like it's 1902 and the signs are in another alphabet, where the traffic island parks are empty and the uncanned garbage is plentiful. Down near the Rat Something restaurant. Today's destination, this weird plastic store on Canal Street, one of my favorite places, with all these weird materials in various shapes and colors that I can use for props and sets and costumes on my film. I'm already wearing plastic, my heart-shaped Lolita sunglasses, strolling calmly, mildly high on marijuana. Uh-oh, here comes Crazy Mary Mantis. Hey, you little fucking cunt, I'm gonna get you now, your bodyguard ain't around to... Don't know what she's saying at the last. Me, running as fast as I can, which is faster than her, even though I'm no athlete. She's far less healthy than me and always in heels. Me, mostly always in flats, but the strap on one of my plastic Mary Janes is loose and about to break. Can't I reason with her? She must still think it was me with the guy she thinks of as her boyfriend. I had nothing to do with him. I don't want to rat out the naughty schoolgirl, but I don't want to get beaten up for something I absolutely did not do either. I'm way ahead, but not feeling safe. A vacant lot, partly crumbled wall. Tough girl tip from Glam Girl, brick and purse. My shoulder bag is barely big enough, but I spot a loose piece of brick on the street, shove it in the bag, and keep running. Now I just want to get home, or at least where there are people on the street. People tend to protect me. I guess I look innocent. I guess poor Mary does not. Oh my God, here she is gaining on me. I try to run across the street, but now there's a truck. Driver doesn't seem to care about my plight. We're all trashed down here to him. I hate to yell too much. I mean, I don't want her to go to jail. I already know they don't put someone in a nice place even if they are crazy, especially if they have dope, which she probably does. She's a charging lioness from the waist up, an awkward giraffe below. She comes close, and I swing my handbag at her. I swing just in front of her face. I try to look intent, a warrior queen with a flail. But really, it's just not in me to even try to hit her. Also, I feel she'll grab it and use it against me. She sees the heavy arc of the purse, and I think it scares her a little. What, do you got a fucking brick in there? I move toward the street, looking for a space between parked cars. She moves with me, and the next time she charges, I swing and I miss, but she wobbles and weaves, and her upper body falls lightly enough not to hurt, I hope, onto the hood of a dusty old Chevy. No truck now. I sprint across the street and down a side street and turn north and keep going. Thank you. So now I'm so delighted to introduce the next reader. Jimmy Cajoleas constructs stories just bursting with life and humanity and faith and rock and roll. You can find links to his work and books on his website. I have it on good authority that it's always a special night when he reads a story. I'm so looking forward to it.
That was really nice. Thank you. Thanks for having me. I will try and live up to that. It's a lot of pressure. I'm glad this is being filmed. It stresses me out. Okay. I was in the mailroom of my apartment trying to check my damn mail when the front door opened and in clomped the mailwoman. Her rain-soaked mail jacket dripping all over the floor, hood down, dragging her wet mail cart behind her. I stood there a minute, dumb, like I couldn't figure out what the mailwoman was there for, even though she's only there for one reason. "Can you move?" she asked. Meanly, like real mean. And I fell in love, snap, just like that. I hadn't even seen her face yet. It was her voice. It was her presence in the room with me. Call it aura, call it some supernatural chemical alchemy that I can't even begin to understand, but it hit me like a sunrise when you fall asleep drunk on the roof. "Move your ass," she said. I was so in love I was quaking. And then she dropped her hood. Not bad, pretty normal face, gray-brown hair. She had to be like 10, 20 years older than me, freckles, weird mole on her chin. "Finally," I said, "I found you, the woman I love." The mailwoman's name was Kelsey, but I didn't know that yet. She reached her gloved hand out and shoved me, hard. I fell back against the door. It swung open and I plopped backwards half into the foyer. "Don't block the mailboxes," she said. I watched her stuff everyone's mail in the right spot, including mine. She was touching my mail. Then she left, slamming the door behind her. Me on my ass, in love. Damn it, I was in love. It was the best day of my life. And also the worst, because I knew one day I'd have to tell her about the angels. Angels glittering by in their decadent robes. Angels with burning hair up on the billboards. Angels dressed like mafia men puffing cigars. Angels that looked like they were made from kielbasa. Slug angels, horse angels, lemur angels, Christopher Lee from the Wicker Man angels. and the earth-quaking, 1,000-foot-tall skyscraper angels, each of their 100 eyes bright and burning as a galaxy, whispering secrets to each other, celestial plans and horrifying words, language not fit for any human to utter. There was an angel watching me right then in the mailroom, a bug-eyed guy with a skinny neck and little elf feet, just staring at me, a real sad look on his face. A month later, Kelsey and I were almost on speaking terms. I'd sit in the mailroom for hours waiting on her, giving her the McDonald's iced coffee she liked, milky and slogged with sugar even when it was cold out. Bran muffins I baked, she seemed to like those. Once I ordered her a pizza, mushroom and garlic, which I figured everybody liked, and I was right. We sat on the mailroom floor and had a slice. I never had a stalker so nice as you, she said. You fucking freak. She was falling in love too. 3 months later, we were banging, and I knew life was good. My love was skyrocketing daily, as in I hit a new level of holy shit, I am in love every morning when I woke up. It was incredible. I didn't even care that Kelsey didn't believe in monogamy, that she said she could never settle for one person, and if she did, it sure as shit wouldn't be a loser like me. Her words, not mine. You should have a positive self-image, but didn't matter because my love was real. Not that the angels thought so, I could tell. They sort of shuffled their little Tinkerbell shoes when she came around. The big brontosaurus angel would turn his head and eat the leaves off some star tree I couldn't see. The bat angels would cross their wings over their chest and hang like light bulbs in the ceiling, pretending to be asleep. The tiniest angels playing on their violins and violas and cellos, and a little pipsqueak orchestra would kick into an anxious dissonance, like the moment before everyone dies in a horror movie. After a year of what I would call dating, the time came for me to tell Kelsey about the angels. Now, why would I go and do that? Well, because I wanted to be transparent. You owe that to the people you love. I only thought it fair that Kelsey know the real me down to my core. What I saw, what my life was like, she would understand. She had to. Or else, what was love even for? Kelsey and I were up on a hill outlooking the reservoir, watching the boats sputter past. The grass was high and full of dandelions. Kelsey was lying back against me, her head on my chest, in a rare moment of peace between us. And I knew this was it. A massive cyclops angel was peeping over the clouds, watching us, his 18 tongues wiggling like flames in his mouth. Kelsey could tell I was nervous. She rolled over and said, "Hey, weirdo, what's wrong?" I said, "I see angels." She laughed. "I'm serious." Kelsey sat up, turned her olive eyes to me. "Are you seeing angels right now?" At that moment, the sun burst out of its clouds, and I saw the sky filled, a whole celestial football stadium of glory, blinding bright gold angels, all of heaven's treasure revealed in its splendor, the most beautiful thing I had ever seen in my life. I looked into Kelsey's worried, beautiful face and told her the truth. 2 weeks after Kelsey dumped me, after she blocked my number, unfollowed me on Instagram, even changed her mail route, something in my brain flipped. I couldn't take it anymore. I found myself catapulted from my apartment onto the street, unshaven and in my bathrobe. I walked down the block, hollering at every angelic majesty I could see. I pointed to one about the size of a Mack truck, bunched neck and long ears, something like a dinosaur from a children's book. "Hey, Big Floppy," I hollered at the angel. "Why don't you up and do something? My love left me." He stuck his purple tongue out at me, unrolled it like an ugly celebrity carpet. A unicorn angel sailed over my head, wings all rainbow shimmer, a tail that glistened like a gasoline spill. "You can do it, you know. You can fix everything." She glided by, unbothered. I made it to the train station, mounted the steps, watched the celestials and their little escalator ride upwards to heaven, to where God is or might be, all clocking into work. "Save me, damn it," I yelled. "Bring Kelsey back." A couple of them turned to stare, a kind of alien pity to them, then went back to their business. It's as if I was nothing, just a fleck of cosmic dust. "Y'all can't ignore me," I said. "I know you don't show up on film, but I'll draw you. I've heard you whispering in the night. I know your secrets. I'll tell everybody. I'll tell the whole world." Right about then, 2 police officers tackled me, threw me to the ground. I realized my bathrobe had spilt open, and I forgot to wear any pants or underwear. One of the cops grabbed me by the throat, and I bit down hard on his wrist. They whipped out their little sticks and beat on me, and I was howling like a scalded dog. My screech ran right up the holy escalator, bouncing like a rubber ball, until I watched it disappear into heaven. The rift closed, the golden escalator vanished. A short cop with a buzz cut kicked me in the ribs once for good measure. The cop zip-tied me, pinned me down. This was it for me. This was it for love. Where I was going, I didn't know if they'd ever let me out. A 4-foot angel with pied pants and wings like cotton candy stopped in front of me, sucking on an angel lollipop. She looked at me on the ground, and her eyes were like the sun caving in on itself. The angel bent down and placed a burning palm on my forehead. It was like she plugged my soul into a light socket. It fried me inside out. My blood was lava, and even the darkest parts of me were lit bright as Christmas. The cop shoved me in the back of a police car, my head bleeding, my front teeth broken. I stared out the window in a kind of awe. The cop in the passenger seat turned back to look at me. "What are you grinning at, dirtbag?" Out the window, an angel walked her angel dog, while a one-legged angel in a wheelchair begged for change. Kid angels played video games on their phones. Old men angels sat in fold-out chairs on the sidewalk talking shit. A businesswoman angel blew a dark plume from her holy vape. And I saw an eyeball flickering like a TV screen in that cop's forehead while he stared at me, the gossamer dragonfly wings he had folded over his jacket. Everyone was an angel to me now. I would reach out, I would embrace the cop, I would tell him I loved him, that I loved everyone in the whole world, but I couldn't. My tongue was a ball of fire, my fingers were wings. Words had become useless, and already I was someone else. Thanks.
Hey, I heard Izzy Casey read at Black Spring Books a few weeks ago. She really knocked me out with her raw power and rhythmic prose. She mostly writes poetry, and her debut book, Queen of the Little Stinkers, will be out in 2028. I'm so happy she's here.
Oh, thanks so much. Hi, I'm Izzy, and I'm going to be reading some poems, and this first one is called Fresh Bread. My mother shoves her head inside the stove, and I cry out, please don't. Without fresh bread, we'll starve. And this next one I wrote in the Central Park Dog Park. And it's called King Midas. Everything I touch turns into a golden retriever. Some call it the dog touch me not. Others call it the woof woof. I prefer the former. It has a maverick ring to it. There are many kinds of maverick. There are many kinds of dogs. Dogs that once were toothbrushes. Dogs that once were dishwashers. Sea devils and oranges. Once I ran headfirst into a warrior. He became a dog warrior. The dog warrior ran right back into me and became two dogs. Once I clapped for a dog and a dog fell out. Once I wept so hard into the washcloth and found a dog against my face. I thought the touch would go away, but it didn't. I thought I'd never meet my father, but I did. I met him in an airport. The airport turned into a dog who wagged its tail at me. The plane took off with me inside it and became a dog that fell from the sky. Each tiny little strand of golden hair, a tiny little golden dog. Once I didn't eat anything for days. I refused to open my mouth for the dog to enter. Once I pulled a dead hair from my head. I pulled a dead dog from my head. How awful it is to become attached to a thing that is living. My father is a dog. My house is a dog. I have never touched my mother. What a monster I am. Time is a dog. Romance is the ugly dog that the car hits. Rows and rows of flowers become roses and roses of dogs. I move through empty space. Every dog becomes a blur. Every nicey nice. Every wake-up time. There is a howling, and I am somewhere in it. It is sabotage alone that I confuse for love. This next one is called The Elf on the Shelf. The elf on the shelf felt me up and then left. There's no one I trust, not even myself. And this next one is an erasure of a Shakespearean sonnet of sonnet number 9. And it's called sonnet number 9. Die, wife, be still, still, no love, such shame. And this last one is only written using words that have the vowel I. And it's called I'm Piss Witch. Hi, I kill little fish with this stick. Swish, hit it, right in its mind, stirring in its. I'm with child in this tiny pink bikini. I'm Mississippi's kid. Birth, it is bliss, it is wind. Climate, high. Hi, I'm by, I'm hiding in this lint bin with this stick, sniffing it. Little stick, it stinks. Is it shrimp? It is shrimp. Is it shrimp? It is shrimp. I think. Ships sink, blimps thin, lights dim, virgins sin. Shrinks snitch, clinics fib. I drink milk with gin. I sip fig chili. Fig chili is bright. Limp. I tilt dick's lid. I lick Bill ill. Dignity stinks. I lick Bill ill. Ribbit. Hiss. I'm girl with girth. I'm sick with thrills. I tip in pills. I dip chips in dip. Or I slit wrists. I dip chips in dip. I mimic victims. I inhibit will. I'm civil ink. I'm critic chic. I'm shining. I'm big. Bird's twin. I wish I'm skinny. If I'm diminishing, it is in this mind I'm in. Thank you.
Bud Smith first came to my attention when I read his story Skyhawks in the Paris Review. I thought it was the best damn story I read in a long time. I went on to read some of his novels. No matter what kind of books you like, you should probably read Teenager. It pretty much checks anybody's boxes. I can't wait for the reissue of his memoir work. I pre-ordered mine from Perfect Day Publishing, and so can you. I'm totally honored to present him here tonight.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I gotta sit. I was in a bad crash a couple years ago. I was in a bad accident. Yeah, I can't really stand for as long as I used to when I was a younger man. So I got asked tonight to come and talk about the accident. I'm honored to be given space to talk about this stuff. Kind of spread some. I know a lot of people out there are suffering. So okay, this is hard for me. But on May 9th, 2023, while on vacation in Wales. I was in a terrible crash. I was thrown from the vehicle, and I wound up in a coma for 11 months. Yeah, 11. There's times even now I wonder if I'm still in it. Sometimes I'm convinced I am. I've been asked to come here tonight and describe what I saw in there, down there, whatever you want to call it. Has anyone in this room ever been in a coma? Nobody? Well, I was. It's not funny. I'll do my best to explain. You see, some people see crazy shit in comas, man. I didn't. Angels? No. Jimmy sees angels. I didn't see any angels. Demons? No. Everything was fairly normal in my coma, except I'd been transported to a young Earth 4 billion years ago. I wasn't dreaming. That's the one distinction I want to make here. My experiences were real. All right, so the first thing I did when I arrived in my coma was I crawled up from the primordial ooze. Evolution was a slow process for me. I started out single-celled, then gradually through random genetic mutation, eventually I got my second cell, my third cell, my fourth, with nuclei and mitochondria and all. And while the planet puked up lava to birth islands and continents, I sneakily tacked on my fifth and favorite cell. Are you following me? These were eons of non-understanding. Time wasn't slow. Slow didn't exist yet. I wasn't bored because I didn't have a brain capable of processing boredom. Derp-de-derp, I carried on and acquired tissue, organs, and a most helpful item, my spinal column. Glory. Look at me. I now had 4 limbs, a neck, even a head. And in my head were only a few primitive concepts, survival and certain undeniable attractions, but nothing to do with love yet. Pride. I had a lot of pride. 3 billion years had passed since I had arrived in my coma, and I was proud to have become a tetrapod. So many others still slithered along limbless and always would be, worms, all of them. Not me. I was a dimetrodon. Yet something troubling had happened to me. I'd gained emotions, a sense of right and wrong, and the last of the scales fell off my eyes. And so my crude career as a synapsid came to a close. Do you know what I mean by hair and milk and live birth? Are these concepts you're familiar with? Of course you are. You're all mammals here. Well, they were new to me, and I fucking loved them. I took to the trees, swinging vine to vine, and began to ask the first questions worth asking. What next? Why this? Who now? What becomes of the brokenhearted? These were days of standing on my own 2 feet for the first time. These were the mornings of my biggest mistake, gaining opposable thumbs, growing a bigger brain, and then the final trap was sprung. I called myself hominid. I killed the lesser apes. I crowned myself, and I thought I had all the answers. By this time, I had my fancy little tools, and I used them to crack open eggs and skulls and to fill my bigger brain with dreams, icons, and symbols. 6 million years ago, crouched on a branch in the canopy of the great forest, I read the clouds and carved their meaning into spiky tree trunks. And then ice storms drove me into crags, crevices, and caves with my new toy, fire, and my new hairy family. There, crowded together with our stony weapons, the saber-toothed tigers dare not enter. These days, especially tonight, there is a Zen quote on my mind. The Zen quote goes like this: everything is perfect, but there's still a lot of room for improvement. Do you feel that way? In my coma, I sure did. The world, young and ancient as it was a perfectly closed loop that needed death to drive life. All had to be in balance or my universe would collapse. It occurred to me then, as I was hallucinating on my favorite berries and mushrooms, death. Death, I was so sick of it. A vivid vision then washed over me there in the cave, and I saw something that made me remember who I had been in a future life. I saw modern appliances come into focus. Floating in the torchlight, I saw microwave ovens, I saw wristwatches, I saw Sega Genesis. And one stormy day, half locked in a vision, or was it a future memory of fruity pebbles and jumbo jets, I half witnessed my Neanderthal wife eating the lice off my Neanderthal children in the heart of a flaming cave, and suddenly everything in my life felt freakishly wrong. I looked down at my hairy palms. Who was Sonic the Hedgehog? What was Swatch? Where's Walla Walla, Washington? I stood up abruptly and I left the cave. Without shame, I tell you now. Yes, I abandoned my Neanderthal wife and kids. I feigned leaving to gather twigs and berries, but I fled from them and I never returned. I made my way to the western shore and stood staring at the waves, where I saw some old friends breach the surface, their fins seeming to wave hello. And there, teetering on the seashore, was I the first creature to contemplate suicide? That's what it would be, returning to a sea I could no longer be a part of, to go swim back to where it all began. And some of my dearest friends had remained dolphins, but I had hesitated at the crucial moment and wound up becoming man. How had all this happened to me? I couldn't be blamed. I sought someone, something, anything to blame. I gestured towards the sun, the easiest target. The sun was to blame. The sun had made all this happen. That much was clear to see. But then I thought, made all this happen? Well, that's pretty goddamn cool. So 100,000 years ago, I began to worship the sun. You would have done it too. That was good for a while. It got me through some dark times. But then my brain grew some more, and I started to also worship the moon. I wish you could have seen how intoxicating the moonlight was back then, and the air we breathe now, it's nothing compared to how sweet it used to be. I moved on, hunting, gathering, all the hits. I wrapped myself in animal hides, but then I got tired of walking so much, so I began to grow crops. I built a fucking awesome village, and you lived there. Well, not you. You lived there. I hung out with nice people, I'm saying. I even began to believe a bevy of magical people lived up in the clouds that hung over the mountain. These magical creatures had created the earth. These magical people had created the sun and the moon. These magical people had all the answers. So me and my friends started worshiping them. We slaughtered animals for them. We burned our children alive for them. We did all kinds of stuff. One day I noticed that when someone died, they were no longer alive. This was a pretty wild concept to take in. I wished I'd never learned it. After that, I became increasingly obsessed with my own death, something that has never been a problem before. Speaking to these magical people about eliminating death became my top priority. One morning, I noticed a bird flew up through the clouds where I figured the magical people lived, the gods I'd begin to call them. I cursed myself for not having evolved into a bird from the get-go, and having no wings myself, I rubbed tar from fissures in the earth on my body, and I placed these feathers on my skin and tried to fly from the ground, but of course I couldn't. Though the rest of the village tried to talk sense into me, I left them and my latest family behind, and I became the first mountain climber. I scrambled up the base of the mountain. Up, up, up I went. The climb to meet the gods was good timing, I guess. Just a few hundred feet up, a torrential rain began. I took shelter under an outcropping. Down below, I watched the rivers converge and wash my village away, and soon the world was completely flooded. To make matters worse, I noticed I was bleeding. This had never happened before. The blood was running down my hands from my fingertips. Yes, this was the same problem, death. I'd evolved into my last form, and I was going to die. I began to climb again. My only chance to save myself, maybe the whole world, was to talk some sense into the gods. Problem was, the rock walls were becoming increasingly sheer, and always there were thunderstorms coming. But then the storms passed, and the sky got clear, and that was even worse. The clouds perpetually up near the apex of the mountain were gone. Now, if I craned my neck, I had a clear view of the actual summit, and above it was simply more blue sky. I realized I was no closer to where the actual gods lived than I had been on the ground. I became petrified with fear. There was nothing left to go down to and nothing up above. I became stranded on the narrowest of ledges. I can't even guess how long it was. Lightning sliced open the sky. So it's been since explained to me by my doctors that what I had interpreted as lightning while I was in my coma might have been the fluorescent lights inside the hospital passing by overhead as I was wheeled in various gurneys, and the deluge I saw far below. Sponge baths, they tell me. Those are my sponge baths. If you've ever had a catheter, has anyone ever had a catheter? When you get a catheter, sometimes you have violent, watery dreams. was another theory they had. Then what of the howling wind? I suppose the howling wind was an advantage I shouldn't complain about, and soon you'll hear why. Now, though I prayed to the gods above to lessen the wind, it kept on, but something else happened that filled me with hope. As soon as I was finished uttering my prayer, I saw a mountain goat with long black fur and a regal splay of horns. He easily trotted up what looked like the sheerest of rock walls. You know, he seemed to possess supernatural powers, but really, he just knew where to step. I followed his lead, carefully placing my feet where he had placed his hooves, and up, 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 I left the precarious ledge, and soon I and the goat were stood at the apex of that mountain, he in disbelief that I had followed, and me in disbelief that the gods had sent him as my guide. The summit was flatter than I had figured it was from a lower vantage. There was an alpine meadow up there, and there was 12 other goats of all colors. They had beautiful curled horns, and they had very trusting eyes. I killed one of the goats immediately, but not my God. I started a fire, I roasted the goat. I drank melted snow from his empty skull and rested for 2 days in a shelter built from willow branches and hunks of rock. There I gathered my strength and I developed my plan. That night I experienced another vision. Up above me, in the stars, I saw a book of glowing golden pages. Many truths were suddenly given to me, transferred immediately. Emblazoned on the cover of the star book shown to me by the gods were these words. The Boy Scout Manual. Have you ever read it? Have you ever read the Boy Scout Manual? So one by one I slaughtered the goats, except my godly guide, and used up every bit of them. I roasted them, I skinned them, I scraped off all their fur. I made cordage from stinging nettles and chopped down the willows and built a frame from the long branches. I stretched the goat skin over a frame that mimicked the body of a pterodactyl I had seen firsthand many evolutions before, blended with the vision of someone named Leonardo da Vinci and a flying machine he'd one day construct in resemblance of a bat. The lone remaining goat lifted his face from his lunch of lichen and sedge. He eyed me from the edge of the alpine meadow. I raised my hand in salute and I said to him, "Thank you for all you've done. I am in your debt. I'm sorry I cannot take you with me. Goodbye." Then I hefted the hang glider. I had built and ran screaming to the edge of the mountaintop and launched myself out into the open air, thousands of feet above the ocean, as far as I could see. At first I began to plummet. The front of the glider tipped towards the ground. With all my strength, I kicked my legs and flexed my arms, but it was no use. I was going to die. The glider plummeted. I made peace with it. I'd accomplished a lot in those 4 billion years. I'd grown, I'd changed, I'd overcome many obstacles. I was about to strike the rocks, but then a howling wind came up and caught the goat-skin sails of my glider and sent me soaring upwards at incredible speed, incredible power into the blinding sun, and I held on for dear life. I was well on my way to meet the gods. And yes, just then, I began to hear them. They were talking to me, welcoming me. I heard them speaking to me in a language I hadn't thought about in eons. They were speaking English. Then it was revealed to me that the blinding light I had thought was the shining home of the shining gods was something else. There was a penlight shining in my eyes. The faces of the gods leered down at me. They were uglier than I thought they'd be. One of them was missing a tooth. One of them had a lot of nose hair. The other's breath stunk. They began to ask me rapid-fire questions. In their own language, I answered them, "It's an honor to meet the gods." Now, imagine my surprise when they seemed to flinch back at this statement, become bashful and embarrassed, and they said, "We're your doctors." I was flat on my back in a hospital bed. They said I'd been unconscious for nearly an entire calendar year. I grew deliriously angry. Imagine when they told me they'd saved my life, how angry it made me. I had suffered so much, I had overcome impossible odds, I'd invented fire. I'd gotten myself off that hellish mountain. And now these not even magical people were taking credit for everything I'd done for myself. And even worse, they were telling me everything that I experienced wasn't real. I raised my head and I searched all around the hospital room for the willow-framed glider, but it was gone. And I was in Wales. Wales. How the fuck was I in Wales? Still, all I could do was show these people my empty hands, still trembling from gripping the glider for dear life as I leaped out onto the air. Thousands of feet above endless ocean had been. As that goat they hadn't even sent to help me watched me ascend in disbelief. One of the doctors gently pushed my hands down onto the bed, and then he assured me that I had dreamed it all. I refused to speak to them after that. You know, who are they to diminish my accomplishments? I wouldn't even take their neurological tests. Don't be angry, they said, we saved you. No, I told them. Then I began to weep. I saved myself. I couldn't control the tears, and I said it again. I saved myself. And you should have seen how they peered down at me, not in pity, but in the kind of aloof smirk one could only expect from the gods. When I was released from the hospital, I couldn't forget what I experienced in the coma. I'd lived an endless procession of lives. Now, sometimes even now, I feel scrambled. I have trouble remembering who I am. And mid-bath, I have to climb out of the tub and walk over to the mirror and just check my reflection and make sure that I'm not a trilobite again. Thank you. All right, next up, no, I think that's it.
Just to thank everybody for being here. I can't believe I'm so honored that the people that read, and we're here, and let's just have a good time and have some fun.